Antoine Lavoisier is considered by many people to be the father of modern chemistry. He was able to prove that water is not an element, but it's made up of two elements, H2O, oxygen, and hydrogen. He predicted the existence of silicon years and years before it was actually discovered, and he built a lot of the modern periodic table with classifying the elements and putting them in order. But what he's most famous for is his contribution to the world of gunpowder. See, at this time, France got all of their gunpowder from a saltpeter mine in India. And when the British kicked the French out of India, they didn't have any gunpowder. They had some stuff at home that they had from local saltpeter mines, but it was really poor quality. Well, the French government came to Antoine Lavoisier and said, "Will you please help us with this problem?" And Lavoisier took all of his genius, all of his time, all of his effort, and he put it 100% into fixing gunpowder. And over the course of several years, France's gunpowder went from being some of the worst quality in the world to some of the best quality in the world. And this helped the American Revolution. When we began to fight for our freedoms, France was more than willing to let us buy their gunpowder. You might have heard of legends of how the American marksmen were so accurate. And a big part of that accuracy comes from the high quality gunpowder that they had. Because poor quality gunpowder, when you fire, it hits a little flint, makes a spark, and it burns and catches, and then there's an explosion. And so when you're holding a big musket to your shoulder and firing and not sure exactly when it's gonna go off, it affects your accuracy. And the French gunpowder, it was spark fire really quickly. This also helped France during their revolution. Their gunpowder was able to help them defend themselves while all the surrounding monarchies tried to come in and stop the revolution. Unfortunately for Lavoisier, his contributions to France through his tax reforms and his education reforms and his scientific discoveries, and even helping France defend itself with the gunpowder, could not save his life from the guillotine. You see, Lavoisier had the terrible crime of being born a noble, and during the time of the revolution, that was enough to get you to lose your head on the guillotine. The judge who condemned Lavoisier to death coolly looked down at him and said, "The Republic has no need of genius." And then Lavoisier was condemned to die. Now, there's some important lessons that we can learn from Lavoisier's life. And one of them is what happens to a society when it no longer appreciates the men and the women who are trying to help it and trying to add to that quality. You see, the Bible says, do everything without complaining or arguing. It also says in the Old Testament, through many, many stories, that when we criticize others, it actually destroys ourselves. See, France killed off one of its greatest scientific geniuses of its entire history. Some would argue that after Lavoisier died, France hasn't produced a scientist up to that quality. You see, the spirit of criticism, whether you're criticizing your family or the pastor or the government, there's a fine line between how can we make this better and destroying the things that are making our society run. That's why the fifth commandment says, honor your father and mother. Now, God knows that moms and dads are not perfect. But when kids dishonor their parents, it destroys the stability and the harmony of the home. Now, one of the wonderful things about the American form of government with its separation of powers and how we have elections for senators and representatives and presidents every 2, 4, 6 years, when all of that means is that when we don't like how things are, we can fix it. We can improve it. But there's a spirit in America right now, and I see it in our churches, I see it in our governments, it's all over social media. It's, if I don't like how something is, I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to criticize it and tear it down with my words. They have a special word for that type of person on the internet, and it's called an internet troll. This isn't someone who says, hey, that's a problem, let's fix it. This is someone who says, I don't like that, let's destroy it. And part of the problem with destroying something is, what's going to replace it? The French Revolution destroyed the monarchy and descended into anarchy. The American Revolution is one of the only revolutions in world history where there was a peaceful change of power that didn't implode in on itself and set up a dictator. And George Washington's character and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, like these are all important things that kept the American Revolution from turning into another monarchy, or even worse, a dictatorship, or even worse, anarchy. Now, I'm not saying that the people in politics who don't like this or do like that are right or wrong. I'm not jumping on a side here. But I'm saying if you see a problem and you want to fix it, don't be like the judge who killed the genius. Say, all right, how can we improve this situation? How can we work with this? Not, I'm going to destroy my parents because they're crazy. Or I'm going to destroy this church because I don't agree with the pastor. Or I'm going to destroy my country because I don't like the decisions that are being made. Or we're going to destroy our society because we don't like that is not the answer. Destruction. It's not a good way to build a better society. There's a very unpopular belief today that says if you want to fix something, you got to start with yourself. When Jesus was talking in the Beatitudes, at the very end, he tells a story about a wise man building his house on a rock and a foolish man building his house on the sand. And part of the principle of this very deep parable is that we have got to build our own houses. We've got to build our own communities. If you don't like the way things are, then make your bed. Then love your family. Then pour into your church. You see, the secret to success and the secret to happiness is found in commitment. Our society today is telling everyone, you don't need to commit to anything. Don't commit to that job. Don't commit to that person. Don't commit to your country. Just do what's best for you. And what that does is it creates a lot of vagrants, a lot of wanderers who are constantly looking for the better thing for them. And the secret is when you commit to someone or to something or to an ideal or to a religion or to a church and you say, okay, I'm planting my flag here. I'm going to make it better here. And like Antoine Lavoisier, you say, all right, I'm going to focus on this one thing, gunpowder. You can make huge improvements. Your church needs you. Your community needs you. Your family needs you. Your country needs you. And whatever you think you're supposed to do, I'm not here to tell you don't do this and do this, whatever. You need to look at it and say, okay, am I improving or am I destroying? Am I building up or am I tearing down? We are always going to have problems. Jesus said, you will always have the poor with you. And part of what he's meaning there is like, we're never going to fix all the problems of the world. People who promise a utopia, they're promising smoke and mirrors. They can't happen. We're never going to get rid of all of the issues. There's always going to be problems. And that's awesome because the problems can unite us as we try to find a solution. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're an atheist or a Christian, whether you're straight or gay, if you look at the future and say, I want the next generation of kids to have it better than I have it now, then that's something we can all come together on. And while we disagree and have different opinions, that's okay. We need to come together and stop tearing everyone down, stop trolling everyone who disagree with, and say, how can we make this a better place? And maybe it starts here. Maybe we need to look at ourselves. You see, there's a promise that Solomon talked about when he dedicated the temple. And he says when we're facing plagues or disasters or foreign armies, if we humble ourselves and turn back to you and pray, then you will answer. And while in my arrogant moments, I can look at the people around me and point out their flaws and say, man, my church would be so much better if those people just did this, or my country would be so much better if those people did this, I've really got to say, okay, need to humble myself and turn back to God and let him work on the things in my heart. Because a society is built of individuals. And when we as individuals humble ourselves and convert and go back to God and let him change us, it'll fix our families, which will affect our communities and our churches and our schools and our states and our nation and the world. And it starts in our hearts. So this has been 30 days of talking about history and how we can learn from the past. And my challenge to you is to take inspiration from the greats of the past and realize that you can be one of the greats of today. And it starts by looking up, getting that strength from God, and stepping into the destiny that he has created for you. I'm going to continue making videos. You continue watching and sharing, because together we can make this world a better place. Together we can make America closer to the ideals that we believe in. Together we can build our churches back up. Together we can make our schools places of learning. Together we can make our homes places filled with love and harmony. Together we can let God transform us and make us better. God bless.